Distinguished colleagues, the first nominee we have before us is Mr. Solomon Adedeji Soyebi. You're welcome. Mr. Soyebi, we have your CV. If you can just tell us very briefly anything that is missing in the CV that you want to tell us about, or anything you want to highlight. You don't need to go through the entire CV line by line. We already have that CV. Just give us a short introduction.
The Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the principal officers of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished senators, most especially my senators from the southwestern zone of Nigeria, and specifically my distinguished senators from Ogun State. My name is Soyebi Adedeji Solomon. I was born in Jos on the 23rd of April 1955. I hail from Abeokuta, north of Abeokuta, Abeokuta south of Abeokuta, local government of Ogun State. I am a Christian, happily married with 4 kids. I started my primary education from African Church Primary School in 1961 to 1968. From there, I went to Baptist Boys High School in Abeokuta from 1969 to 1973. I proceeded to CMS Grammar School in Lagos for my higher school certificate in 1975. And from there, I proceeded to the University of Ibadan in 1975 to 1978, where I bagged a BSc Honours in Chemistry. I had my NYSC scheme in Miango, GSS Miango, Basa local government of Plateau State. From there, I went back home to Ogun State, where I was with the Teaching Service Commission for 24 years. 20 of these 24 were as principal of various schools and headship of various schools. I was first of all appointed in 2003 November to be a resident electoral commissioner with INEC. I served in 6 different states as resident electoral commissioner. In 2007, I was elevated to the post of a national commissioner with the same commission. In the same vein, I rose to act as the acting chairman of the commission for 4 months until I pulled out in 2012. Briefly, this is my story, Mr. President, sir.
Senate Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, seated as chair. My respected colleagues, James Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. Nominee, if confirmed by these distinguished senates, you will be going back to a very familiar terrain. You have been very involved. And my question is a very simple one. What is electronic voting all about? And when will Nigeria be ripe enough for electronic voting? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Salisu Egi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Salu Hussein Ege, representing the good people of Nasarawa South. Mr. Nominee, you have been in the business of election management, both inside and outside Nigeria. My simple question is, what would you do to ensure that the management of elections in Nigeria has become flawless to the extent that Nigerians will not be crying foul of either marginalization or outright disenfranchisement from the voting process. Thank you very much.
Senator Bola Dada.
Colleagues, my name is Bola Dada from Ogun State, that's Ogun West. Mr. Nominee, you are from my state, and what I like to know is that lately we've introduced technology into our voting patterns, and technology seems to accelerate self-delivery, eliminate human interferences. In your own perception, do you reckon the last readers systems which they brought for this last election, is it adequate enough, is it robust enough to do further, or you want to, and why I'm appointed, you want to make sure you have a better solution to the election system in this country? Thank you.
On electronic voting, I would say that a lot of us try to confuse voting with balloting. Voting itself is a process. When we talk about voting, it starts with the accreditation of the voter to the real ballot casting, to the transmission, to the collation of the results, and of course to the transmission of such results. Those four components are what we call voting. If we look very carefully, you will see that 3 out of these components are already electronic. We have an electronic register in operation. That is number 1. Number 2, with the 2015 general election, the accreditation has become electronic with the introduction of the card reader. Our results since 2011 had always been electronic. We have had electronic transmission of results. What we usually do is just to have a manual confirmation and then fulfillment of the constitution by somebody reading a returning officer telling us exactly what he has done. But most of our operations have gone electronic. For every election that we've been conducting for the past 8 or 9 years, the Commission has not used anything less than 30 metric tons of paper to conduct elections. And if you agree with me, elections are international by nature, and we have international standards of conducting elections. Most countries have gone fully electronic now because of the advantages which we have there. Number 1, we eliminate what we call duplicity if it is done properly. Identification, impersonation, these are things that we can only eliminate by voting. The greatest of all these ills, which electronic balloting, which is only one left out, will give us, is this menace of ballot stuffing. You agree with me that the citizens of this country are very, very We have one of the most difficult terrains in Africa. From Adamawa to Cross River, there are some places in Cross River where it could take you about 15 to 16 hours to transmit materials or even results back to such units. But electronic balloting, which is the last one which we are talking about, will eliminate this. And I'm sure you are all aware that there is a law which has put embargo on this. What you asked was the advantages of electronic voting. Whether we like it or not, technology is here with us to stay. Some 20 years ago, I'm telling you, Nigeria's population is not as large as what we have now. As of now, we are not even sure of what the population is. But I can assure you, if we conduct a census exercise now, I will not be surprised to find us in the excess of 200 million. These are things we cannot do manually. This manual thing is becoming outmoded. And since we have 4 components, 3 of them have become fully electronic, I will strongly suggest and recommend that we go the whole way and make sure that we conduct electronic elections in the country. It is not feasible for us. Most of the things we do here, we don't run a pilot scheme. We could start with smaller elections like a by-election in a small state constituency, run it alongside the manual voting, and then say, grow with the process and see the pros and cons, and then discover what we have. That is the way I will talk about the issue of electronic voting. Now, talking about flawless election, well, I don't know what I can call a flawless election, but I can assure you there is no election in this whole world that is perfect. What we can do is just to reduce some of the hiccups associated with elections and then inject a lot more credibility and transparency into the system. And I think since 2011, this is what the Commission has been doing. It's a process which is ongoing. We have to learn with the process too. It's a real-life problem. Once we come across a particular bottleneck, we find a way of. But the only way we can do this is through what we call principle of transparency, where we become more open and more transparent and we become more inclusive. You will discover that most elections become less flawless and more credible. Well, my senator asked about technology. I think the question is tied to the first one. The whole world has gone fully technology, and it's not something we can run away from. It's here with us to stay. Most of the things have to be done electronically. We might be surprised. In 2011, the voters figure we had was about 69 million. If we look around now with the number of children that turn 18 every year, we will say that by now we could be talking about 75 million. There is still a group of Nigerians which we don't talk about. That is Nigerians outside the country. Those ones are estimated to be about 13 million. They have voting rights too. I'm sure most of these things will be very difficult to conduct with manual override. Technology is just an important solution to delivery of election services. Thank you, sir.